does that word look like? Very simply. It looks for consumer ecology. Consumer ecology. What does consumer ecology look like? A Buddhist scholar who I spend a lot of time with refers to consumer ecology is when you can actually say the words I want and I need and actually mean the same thing. Let me say that one more time. When you can say the words I want and I need and actually mean the same thing. Ooh, that's getting really metaphysical on us there, Dr. Martin. We really would be more comfortable if we actually did something else. Well, let me ask you a question. You wanted to have a retirement account. Oops. Somewhere along the line, betting on that one may not be as good a bet as it would have been maybe 5 years ago. So what, is your strategy die early? Or maybe we need to figure out how to live differently. Maybe we need to figure out what I want and I need looks like. Maybe we could actually envision a scenario where we don't say, oh my gosh, what are the retirees going to do? Maybe we could envision a scenario where we go, thank God we can re-engage minds who have been sidelined. Oh my gosh, that sounds like socialism. Yeah, like buying banks with taxpayer money isn't. Hello? Are we here? We already crossed that line when we decided to buy AIG and when we decided to buy all the other banks. We crossed the line. The government already has said, we're going to own your future. I got an idea. Why don't we re-engage people to actually bring back that tear in the eye of the provincial administrator in Papua New Guinea who can sit there and say, we once believed in a common value system that actually meant that we bestowed honor on each other, not that we bought and sold our relationships. Oh, I'm sorry, that's too radical, isn't it? I should grow a beard. I should go walk around with like tattered jackets and be a prophet and eat locusts. I should do that because that's so idealistic. Give me a break. Everything that you once thought was idealistic went out the window. We want free markets. Good. Where are you going to find those? But we want a capitalist system. You know what? There's a whole bunch of Friedman's alumni who are rolling in their graves right now, and a whole bunch of them wish they could find their graves right now because the University of Chicago is going, doggone it. It would really suck if this thing plays out the way it looks like it's playing out. Because we got a whole heck of a lot of people who all bet the farm on it playing out a different way. Well, welcome to Deming's world, people. Wouldn't it be funny if Deming actually was right and Friedman was actually wrong? Where the notion that you actually had to train everybody in a value network to the importance of their contribution to that value network, which is what Deming did in Japan, that was the success of the Japanese economy. And Japanese economy went off the rails when it decided Jack Welch was the patron saint of business and capitalism and not Deming, because Six Sigma actually said it's about making sure that the end product doesn't have faults in it. And Deming said, no, it isn't. Deming said it's about making sure everybody, from the guy who sweeps the shop floor to the guy who's actually packaging the final good, understands the importance of the role that they play. Whoa! Whoa! Wouldn't it be fascinating if everybody in this room actually walked out tomorrow and decided to change this world by picking one enterprise in Berkeley Springs? One. And rather than walking in the door as a customer, walked in the door and said, you know what? I'm here for you. Hey, that's really radical, isn't it? You know what? I've done business X, I've done value Y, I've built industry Z, I've done all those things, and I am going to buy a cup of coffee from you. But you know what? You're going to have some complexity about how you're going to refinance the expansion you just did on your shop. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to deal with inventory. And you know what? That's something I might be able to help you out with. And guess what? I'm going to buy coffee from you, and I'm going to be here for 30 minutes any day you want, and I'm going to contribute. What if Berkeley Springs decided to actually be part of a solution? Where we went back to something really anachronistic and old-fashioned and so yesterday. Like actually giving a rip about the person sitting right next to us. Like actually going, instead of complaining about the service that we get at the restaurant, going, you know what? Let me show you how I would have served that plate. Hey, that's a crazy idea. Maybe the 18-year-old who has never sat at a table with a family having a meal could actually use an example of what it actually is to actually use a fork and a knife. And you think this doesn't have anything to do with where you can invest for the future of your economy? Guess what? You want to invest, put your pocketbook away and start finding your heart and your soul. Because the funny thing is, if you start investing with that, you'll actually figure out some interesting opportunities. Let me tell you about one. Just happened on the phone today. It's going to change the world. You want to know what it is? 30% of the agriculture production in Africa actually is operating at 70% or less productivity. That means a huge number of people in Africa starve because we just don't have adequate both farming technology, seed technology, and everything else to actually adapt to the changing agricultural conditions in Africa. So I got a phone call from a guy who says we need to change that paradigm. You know what we're going to do? We're going to change the paradigm. We're actually going to use trade credit offsets, which are the giant overhangs that have been created by vast trade imbalances between countries, and we're actually going to use the ability for a company to recognize revenue on its balance sheet as an incentive to actually invest in Africa. Wow, hold on a second. So who's going to do the clearinghouse for that? How's the functioning? How's that going to work? How's the laundry facility going to work? Who's going to get paid? Who's the merchant banker, investment banker that gets to take a cut out of it? The answer is nobody. You're actually putting together people who actually have a real need, people who need to recognize revenue. That's actually pretty much everybody who's ever sold anything on the global economy right now, the ability to recognize revenue. Pretty important. You actually have people who actually need to do trade credit offset imbalances and have to justify those. So I'm going to take the people who have a need, and I'm going to have the people who actually have a need to recognize revenue, and I'm going to put them together. I'm going to say what that money is going to do, that exchange of value is going to do, is it's going to get you seed that you can actually use to plant better crops. And you're going to feed people, and no one is going to move a single dollar. That's not possible. That's not possible. You can't actually do aid without giant infrastructure. The Gates Foundation. You need to have a big foundation. You need to have the Rockefeller Foundation. You have to have something with a foundation name, because foundations or World Bank or something else has to do development. No, you don't. You have to put people with needs together with people who have needs and actually give them a context in which they can see why their needs correlate to each other. And that's all you need. That, by the way, that fabulously wonderful idea, which will feed probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 22 million people, was done this afternoon on my cell phone in Berkeley Springs. People, if we want to change the world, if we want to really change the world, if we really want to build our own stability, if we want to understand where the markets are going, how long it's going to be, ask yourself those questions. How long is it going to be until you realize that you do not need money as the currency of the sole value attribution of yourself or of others? How long is it going to be that you don't see yourself for your ability to contribute into the economy? How long is it going to be that says, hey, you know what, I signed lied a long time ago. I'm just not in the picture anymore. I don't have an ability to influence anything. You know what? You do. This is a crisis only if you let it be a crisis. If you don't, this is one of the greatest opportunities that humanity has ever had. Your first investment should be actually saying hello to somebody else in this room and saying, this is what I bring to the table, this is what you bring to the table, what can we do together? That's your first investment. Your second investment is to actually listen very carefully. The next time you hear somebody say, this is a safe investment, don't put your money there. Okay? Don't put your money there. If it's denominated in US dollars, realize that the dollar that you put on the table today is going to be worth 30 cents less than today by December. 30 cents. You'll see additional devaluation. How do we come to that number? Very simply. Look at what the Treasury has to print to bail out the current financial situation. We will print a discount of 30% on our economy. So, there you go. Your 70 cents, Good. It'll be 60 cents or 50 cents or 40 cents. Stop focusing on what's not important. Start focusing on what is. And I've touched everything.
Thank you. You're welcome to, if you need to run off to dinner, but I suspect David would be happy to answer a few questions.
I have a question about the counterfeit.
Yep.
The issue with money is belief in its solidity and value.
Yep.
Then what difference does counterfeiting make if you still believe it's real?
Actually quite huge. The perceived value, which can be done very easily by just a mass infusion of counterfeit. If you want to destabilize Secretary Paulson right now, and you are a nation that wishes to do harm to our government right now, what you would do is you would actually be printing a phenomenal amount of counterfeit bills. Because what this economy could not take right now is a scare on the currency. It couldn't take it. So what you would do is you would actually infuse a massive glut of counterfeits into the system.
How do you get it in?
Very easily. And wonderful question. You get it in through, and I'm glad you asked this question because there's a little known detail, and you can look this one up too, by the way. Didn't hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal, but it should have. There are a series of Federal Reserve transactions that are currently used to launder Afghan opium money. And there's a reason why we're letting it happen. We're letting it happen because it's a great way to actually introduce currency into the market without actually having to ever say it ever came from us. Just a couple weeks ago in Vanuatu, one of the greatest laundry exercises of US dollars took place, and it was actually a way to fund Afghani clearing of heroin sales. What actually happened was several large denominations of US treasuries were actually used to counter a heroin delivery that actually went through Vanuatu. That's where we actually had it interdicted. But what was fascinating about that exercise is that what was happening was you actually clear federal notes, you actually pick up both actual and counterfeit currency, and all of a sudden it becomes entered into this system through, you guessed it, the drug traffic.
So where's the complicity?
You know what?
Somebody big is in on that.
Yeah, and I would actually probably not do that with a tape rolling because I actually can answer your question. You probably don't want the answer, but I will answer it off tape.
Topic than a Russian oligarch.
Yeah, because it's a lot closer home.
I got to the where you answered the Obama question, which is it's not a mortgage crisis, it's a credit crisis based on the second, third
Yep.
home equity loan. And then okay, we told them that, and then we went off, and essentially your riff, as I get it, is that it's over. That really, that the political system has really no response. China's going to stop, propping up this economy. So it's going to fall, and we've got to go back to a primitive barter or a much more cooperative society, and that's the optics on the table.
The optics on, let me clarify. I do not see this as a collapse or a fall. Okay? I think what we had was entirely artificial. I think as soon as you start telling me that we've got 1.4 quadrillion derivatives being traded and that's the basis for an economy, we're already in tooth fairy land. I mean, there wasn't value there. So yes, if that constitutes a fall, kind of like when I found out that there isn't an Easter bunny and Jesus didn't die on a chocolate cross, that kind of devastation is kind of where we are. It is not a collapse. It is actually an extraction of a series of artificial contracts which never did exist. And so I can't talk about a collapse of something that doesn't exist. It's like saying that the flan didn't set. Well, I don't like flan. Great, it didn't set. The crap that we were exchanging that we said was value isn't. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you want to celebrate, we just opened up the box and found out